Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about 10 weird German words and their underlying philosophical meaning. So wait and see because they're so incredibly interesting. But let's start with the video. So the first word is Augenblick. Augenblick is a very interesting word because it's one of those words that's a compound word. If you are not very familiar with German, you might still know that German is like notorious for having incredibly long words. And the reason for this is because they add words onto each other. So if you have one word, they add another and another and another and another. And it's basically like they're forming sentences of words or like Lego constructions of words. It's interesting because the result is like a very detailed and nuanced meaning. And the word Augenblick is precisely a depiction of that. So Augenblick literally translates to Augen, which means eye, and Blick, which means picture. And this word means moment. So if you think about it, it's actually very interesting because the philosophical underlying of it is that it's the picture of the eye or the snapshot that the eye is taking. And I feel like this really gives the sensation that the eye is taking a snapshot of a very fleeting and very specific point of time. And this really results in the idea that a moment is, it's not your birthday, it's not Christmas, it's not one day, it's not the entirety of a month. It's just one very short and specific moment where something meaningful happens, and then your eye decides that it's going to save that information by taking a picture and saving it in your brain. So I really love this word, and I think it is a great word that is used to mean moment. So the second word or words that we're going to be talking about is experience. And the reason I say words is because there are two ways in German to say experience. One is Erlebnis and the other one is Erfahrung. So Erlebnis means something that is completely anecdotal, an experience that doesn't really mean anything to you, kind of like waking up in the morning, going to the bathroom and brushing your teeth, or running into someone on your way to class without having a conversation that's beyond small talk. And yes, you can talk about those things, you know, you can say like, well, today I woke up and I did this and I did that, but it really doesn't have any kind of like emotional or mental weight on you. It doesn't mark you. However, the difference with Erfahrung is that an Erfahrung is an experience that fundamentally changes your personality in the sense that it fundamentally changes your worldview. And I think that this word is so incredibly interesting because especially coming into the United States as a 13-year-old, I had plenty of Erfahrungs in the sense that I was meeting people from other countries. I don't know if you know this, but Colombia is actually a very homogeneous country. Most people are, or at least like in my entourage, in my surrounding, most people were from the same socioeconomic status. Most people were heterosexual. Most people were the same race. So coming to the United States and meeting this plethora, this multitude of people was really like this broadening and this world view expanding experience. So by all means, I think that Erfahrung and Erlebnis are two great words, and especially Erfahrung, I think that it's a great word that conveys an incredibly nuanced and very necessary meaning. The next word is actually one of my favorites. I think that it's so beautiful. It's Zeitgeist, and it's actually a legitimate English word, and they use it a lot in literature courses and history courses. You've probably heard it before, but it translates to spirit of the time. That's what you will find if you look it up in the dictionary. However, if you do the literal translation from German, Zeit means time and Geist means several things. It can mean ghost, spirit, and mind. Actually, I think that it's so interesting how Germans have like the same word for ghost and mind, because the mind is very ethereal, and it is kind of like a ghost, you know, like there's no way that you can put a finger on it. It's kind of like this nebulous thing that's in your head. So I think that it is so interesting that it has that underlying component. But anyway, so Zeitgeist, I think it's such a beautiful word because it is meant to encapsulate the spirit of an era. So the way that I learned about it was when I was learning about the Roaring 20s. And the zeitgeist of the Roaring 20s was one of socioeconomic prosperity, flappers, sexuality, lots of booze, lots of alcohol, lots of exuberance, lots of technological development. And to contrast that, we talked about the zeitgeist of the 1930s, which was one of recession, and one of famine, one of desperation, uncertainty, hunger. It is so interesting how zeitgeist encapsulates the mind of the time, the spirit of the time, because it's kind of like this collective psyche. So I really like this word. Now we're going to be talking about words that are a little fun, and the reason I like these words is because they tend to be really funny. So you've probably heard this one, but in German the way that you say glove is Handschuh, which literally means handschuh. And I know it's like pronounced the same thing, which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, isn't it so weird and logical at the same time that they decide to use like the hand covering? It's like, it is like a glove is literally like a handshoe. You could describe it as that and it would totally make sense to everybody. But it's so funny how literal the German language is. And they don't only do it with this word, they have several words like that. For example, to say skunk, they say Stinktier, which means the gross smelling animal. So it's, again, basically the same thing. And one of the words that I actually knew before learning German was Blitzkrieg. I learned it when I was learning about the World War II. And the idea of Blitzkrieg was like, it means thunder war. It means kind of like this quick and dirty war. So you basically go in, destroy your enemy as though you were thunder, and then you get out immediately. So again, I think it is a very interesting word because it really shows the ability of Germans to be very succinct in the sense that they can pack a lot of meaning in a few letters. A word that's a little bit more sad is Weltschmerzen, and Weltschmerzen, it's actually something that a feeling that I do have, but I've never actually been able to put this into words because there is not a word for it in English. And it means world pain. And what it translates to in English is the pain that you feel when you are aware of the state of the world. So you probably have felt this when you see the melting ice caps, the environmental damage done to rainforests, to basically everything. But when you see the troubles, the pain, in the global context, I feel like it's the perfect word to describe that feeling. And I really think that we should incorporate it in English because people should be able to express that. Another weird thing about German is that they combine words in the sense that they kind of like meld them together. So for example, in German, the way you say yes is ja, and the way you say no is nein. And in order to say maybe or yes and no, they melt both words together and they say jein. So I find that pretty neat. And another example of that is Zweisamkeit, which translates to two and loneliness. So two loneliness, it doesn't have a translation into English, but it literally, it means that when you are in a couple, like when you have a boyfriend, and both of you want to be alone together, it means two loneliness, like loneliness for two, which totally makes sense. And again, I feel like we should have a word for that in English and in all the other languages. But essentially my point with this video was to show you how cool the German language is. I feel like it gets a bad reputation for being an angry language, but it really is not. I think that the most salient aspect of German, especially if you've been learning German for a few years or a year even, is to understand the very philosophical and very logical and strange and humorous underlying tone that all of these words have, because there are so many other examples of things that really make you think and make you aware of how you can look at a word that you've always used differently. So that's what I love about German, and I think that I want to highlight this in other languages as well. So I might do a video like this for another language. But yeah, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. If you want to see what I've been reading this past week, just check the link below. I've linked all the books down below, so feel free to do that. And also follow me on Instagram. One thing that I've been starting doing is to take stories of foreign songs, foreign movies, and foreign books that I'm reading, and language books that I'm reading. So Every one of my recommendations is over there, so if you're interested in that, that's great. You can follow me. I also post inspirational quotes for you to be disciplined and diligent, because I think that the most important thing about learning languages is being consistent. And I know that I sound like rah, 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 but I feel like I have to put myself into that mindset in order to be successful. I'm a lot more chill in real life, to be honest, but you know, this is my language channel, so I think that I want to be a little bit hard on myself so that I make progress, and I also want to be a little bit hard on you guys, because I know that the only thing that will make you better is practice. So practice, practice, practice. But yeah, subscribe down below and like this video, and if you want, and please tell me any words that you don't think have like an English translation down below, or that have a cool meaning in your language, or a cool kind of like undertone. Leave them down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.